Welcome back to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, minus the noise. Today, we're plunging headfirst into something that's suddenly become really central for a lot of us, online learning. It's clearly not just a passing thing anymore, is it? It feels like a fundamental shift. But, the big question is, how do we actually stay engaged? Properly engaged, I mean, when we're learning remotely, just kind of staring at a screen. So we're taking a deep dive today into this really fascinating recent study. It came out of Taiwan. And this isn't just theory, it's looking directly at higher education students, seeing what their experiences are like in these online settings. And honestly, it's packed with insights that feel like they apply to pretty much anyone trying to learn something new online these days. We're going to unpack what makes online learning actually, stick.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how this research paper really manages to distill the essence, the core components of what drives that engagement online. So our mission today really is to pull out those key ideas, some of those academic terms, maybe the ones that look a bit intimidating on paper, and just turn them into clear, actionable nuggets, stuff you can actually use to boost your own learning. Think of it like decoding your online learning superpowers.
Exactly. Superpowers. I like that. This isn't just abstract academic chat. This deep dive is really about understanding your own mental toolkit, right? Tapping into your internal strengths and finding those superpowers that make you an effective online learner. We'll be breaking down some big ideas like motivation, self-belief, which researchers call self-efficacy, and self-guidance, that's also known as self-monitoring. And we'll see how all these things, these ingredients, don't just exist separately. They combine, they interact to keep you truly hooked and learning effectively whatever it is you're studying. So maybe let's start with something you can probably relate to. Just think back for a second. A time you were really into learning something online. Could be anything, right? A new language, a complex recipe from a video, maybe mastering a new piece of software for work. What was going on there? What kept you coming back even when it got tricky? That sort of sustained energy, that focus, that connection. Well, that's what researchers call learning engagement.
Yeah, basically, learning engagement is way more than just, logging in or clicking through slides. It's really the total effort, the focus, and that genuine connection you put into your learning. And the research helpfully breaks it down into three key dimensions. Understanding these can really shine a light on your own process.
Okay, so first up, behavioral engagement. This one's pretty straightforward, right? It's what you do. Are you actively jumping into online discussions, asking questions in the chat, actually doing the practice activities, or are you just kind of passively watching like it's another show on Netflix? It's the visible stuff, the actions you take.
Exactly, the doing part. Then there's cognitive engagement. This shifts the focus inside to what you think.
Yeah.
And this goes beyond just listening. It's more like, are you actively trying to connect these concepts to real-world problems? Are you maybe challenging your own assumptions, asking yourself, okay, why does this work? Or, how could I actually use this? It's about how you mentally wrestle with the new information. That's where the deep understanding starts to happen.
Right. The mental heavy lifting. And then my personal favorite, emotional engagement. This is all about how you feel about the whole learning experience. Are you actually, enjoying the online course? Do you feel optimistic about it, curious, maybe even excited when new stuff drops? Or does it just feel like a total chore, something you just have to grind through? When you're emotionally engaged, that positive internal vibe makes a huge difference in your persistence and how much you remember.
Absolutely. And these three, the doing, the thinking, and the feeling, they aren't separate buckets.
Yeah.
They're deeply connected, influencing each other all the time.
Okay, cool. So that's engagement. What's next?
Next, crucial ingredient, motivation. We all kind of know what motivation is in learning. But to be specific, this study, like a lot of others, looks at intrinsic motivation. That's when you learn something just because you enjoy it, it's inherently interesting.
Like learning guitar just because you love music.
Exactly. And then there's extrinsic motivation, which is driven more by external things, getting a good grade, needing a certificate for a job, impressing someone.
Right. Like maybe you're learning that complex recipe because your in-laws are coming over next weekend.
Yeah, that could definitely be extrinsic. So intrinsic is the pure joy of it. Extrinsic is for some kind of outcome or reward. Both can get you started, absolutely.
But they operate maybe a bit differently as fuel for your learning engine. Like, is one better than the other?
Well, the study doesn't necessarily say one is better, but it does show how critical motivation overall is as fuel. And how that fuel drives you is really key for developing those other superpowers we mentioned.
Okay, so motivation is the fuel. Got it. What does it fuel first?
Well, that fuel, that motivation, seems to powerfully influence something called learning self-efficacy. Now, this isn't just general self-confidence, like feeling good about yourself overall. It's very specific. It's your focused belief in your own ability to succeed at a particular learning task or in a specific environment. So if you're about to tackle, say, a really tricky online coding module, self-efficacy is that inner voice saying, okay, yeah, I can figure this out. I have what it takes.
Ah, right. So it's like having that mental I got this button
Wow.
specifically for your studies. It's that deep down feeling of capability that keeps you pushing forward, even when the material gets tough or maybe you feel a bit isolated online.
Exactly. And that I got this button becomes even more vital in online learning, arguably. Think about it. In a physical classroom, you might quickly lean on a classmate or grab the instructor right away. Online, you're often more on your own, more autonomous. So having that strong self-belief acts as a critical buffer against that remoteness factor. It helps you stay self-directed and not feel totally lost.
Makes total sense. Okay, motivation, self-efficacy. What's the last piece of the puzzle?
The final core term for today is self-monitoring.
Self-monitoring. Okay.
You can think of this as being your own personal academic GPS.
Okay, I like that analogy. GPS.
Yeah, it's your ability to observe and regulate your own learning process as you go. It has two main parts. First, there's self-assessment. That's that inner check-in. Asking yourself, am I actually getting this concept or am I just kind of nodding along?
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. And the second part is self-recording. That means tracking your progress. Okay, how far have I actually come? Am I hitting the milestones I set for myself?
So checking the map and seeing how far you've driven.
Precisely. It's a really critical self-directing process.
Yeah.
You're basically being your own coach, constantly evaluating where you are and then proactively deciding, okay, what do I need to do next? Maybe review that last section.
No.
It really empowers independent learning, which, as we know, is just fundamental for success online, where those external nudges might be less frequent.
Yeah, it's the difference between just blindly following directions and actually understanding the map and knowing where you are on it. When you're self-monitoring, you're not just hoping you'll get there, you're actively steering your own learning ship. It feels like taking real ownership, which is huge, especially online. Okay, so we've got the ingredients. Learning engagement, motivation, self-efficacy, and self-monitoring. Now let's get to the main course. The study's big reveal: how do these superpowers actually connect and influence each other? So these researchers in Taiwan surveyed 354 higher ed students. That's a pretty decent number, right?
Yeah, good sample size.
And a really solid mix, two different genders, years of study, various academic fields like science, engineering, arts. And they used some fancy statistical tool, SEM, to map out how these factors played out in online learning specifically.
That's right, structural equation modeling. It lets you look at complex relationships between multiple variables simultaneously. And the results were, well, incredibly insightful. They really map out clear pathways to understanding online engagement. First off, they found motivation acts as a really powerful catalyst, like a huge starting point. It showed a profoundly positive relationship with both learning self-efficacy and self-monitoring. So basically, when students felt more motivated, whether it was that inner curiosity or an external goal driving them high, they also had a stronger belief in their ability to learn this stuff, and they got much better at tracking their own progress and understanding.
Wow. Okay. So sparking that internal drive is like lighting a fuse for this whole positive chain reaction. That initial why you're learning really seems to kick your self-belief into high gear and at the same time makes you more organized and strategic about it all.
Exactly. The study showed a really strong link there, especially between motivation and self-efficacy. The beta value was 0.79, which is quite high.
0.79. That's huge. So motivation is like the fundamental igniter for these other key skills.
It really seems to be. And building on that, the study found that learning self-efficacy doesn't just sit there. It actively builds on itself and then spreads its influence. So, if you believe you can learn something,
Your I got this button is switched on.
right, then you're not only far more likely to actively monitor your progress, check your understanding, that self-monitoring piece, but you also become more deeply involved across the board in all three types of engagement. How much effort you put in, behavioral, how deeply you think about it, cognitive, and how positively you feel, emotional.
Yeah, that just makes intuitive sense, doesn't it? Feeling capable spurs you to actually take charge and dive in properly. It fuels that continued effort.
Precisely. The links between self-efficacy and the three types of engagement were also pretty strong, around 0.46 to 0.48 beta values.
Okay, and the ripple effect continues. Does self-monitoring also boost engagement?
It does. Self-monitoring also directly powers learning engagement. Being your own GPS really pays off. When you consistently check your understanding, track your goals, know where you stand, you're much more likely to stay truly engaged. Those beta values were a bit lower, around 0.24 to 0.35, but still definitely positive and significant. Knowing how well you're grasping things directly feeds into your willingness to keep putting in the effort and focus.
So it's like this self-reinforcing loop. The more you monitor, the more engaged you get, which probably helps you learn better, which maybe makes you monitor more effectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now here's where it gets really interesting, kind of the secret sauce of this research, I think. The study found that while motivation does have some direct influence on engagement, its most significant, its strongest impact actually comes indirectly.
Indirectly. How so?
It works primarily by first boosting your self-efficacy and your self-monitoring skills. And then, those two factors, in turn, are the main drivers of engagement.
Ah, okay. So motivation gets the ball rolling, but it passes it off to self-belief and self-tracking to really score the points for engagement.
That's a great way to put it. It raises a really important point for us, doesn't it? It suggests it's not just about being motivated, but maybe more importantly, it's about how that initial motivation gets channeled,
Yeah.
how it fuels your belief in yourself and your ability to manage your own learning process.
Right. Those are the critical bridges that carry motivation's energy forward into actual sustained engagement. It's like motivation is the starting play or maybe the spark plug, but self-efficacy and self-monitoring are the star teammates who truly set up the winning shot. They make the crucial assists.
Fantastic analogy.
Mhm.
It really highlights that cultivating that self-belief and that self-monitoring habit is just as vital, maybe even more so in some ways, than just finding that initial spark.
Okay, this is clarifying a lot. What else did they find? Was there like a wow moment in the results?
Well, I think the wow factor is this. The overall model they built, using just these four variables, motivation, self-efficacy, self-monitoring, and learning engagement, it explained a really remarkable amount of why students get engaged. We're talking about 76% to 78% of the variance in the different types of learning engagement.
76 to 78%. That's huge.
Okay.
So just by understanding these three core things, motivation, self-efficacy, self-monitoring, we can understand almost 4/5 of why someone stays engaged online.
That's what the model suggests for this group of students.
Yeah.
If we connect that to the bigger picture, that's a massive amount of predictive power. It means if we, as learners or educators, really focus on nurturing these elements, we could potentially make huge strides in fostering genuine online engagement.
That's incredibly powerful. And you mentioned the study built on previous work. Did it add anything really new or confirm things more strongly?
It did a couple of important things. First, as you said, the sample size of 354 was larger and more diverse than some previous studies focusing on similar models, which adds robustness to the findings, makes them more reliable.
Okay, so stronger evidence.
Yes. And second, it suggested something really intriguing, that positive link between motivation and self-efficacy, the 0.79 beta value we mentioned. Some earlier research in traditional face-to-face settings found a correlation, but maybe lower, like around R-core of 0.54.
Huh. So the connection might actually be stronger online. Why do you think that might be?
That's a brilliant question, and the study doesn't definitively answer it, but we can speculate, my guess. Maybe it's because online, like we said, you lack some of those immediate social cues, the direct supervision. So your internal drivers, your motivation and your belief in yourself have to carry more weight. They become even more critical.
Less external structure means the internal structure has to be stronger, maybe.
Perhaps. They become indispensable anchors when you're learning more independently. Also importantly, this study provided much clearer evidence for the link between self-monitoring and online engagement, which had been a bit fuzzy in prior research. It clarifies that when learners are motivated, their ability to learn independently really does seem to increase, and their engagement across the board, behavioral, cognitive, emotional, is enhanced.
Okay, this is all super insightful. So let's bring it home. With all this great research, what does this actually mean for you listening right now? How can you practically apply this stuff to your own online learning, whether you're formally studying, upskilling for work, or just trying to learn, I don't know, how to bake sourdough online? First, maybe for us as learners, it sounds like it's about active cultivation, right? And not just passively hoping we feel engaged. So, number one, cultivate motivation. Don't just wait for it. Actively seek out your why. What genuinely excites you about this topic? Try to focus on the enjoyment, that intrinsic side, the fun of figuring things out, even if there are external pressures too. Maybe gamify it for yourself. Connect it to a passion project.
Great ideas. Second, boost self-efficacy. This isn't just about positive thinking. It's about building real belief. So when you tackle something tricky and you do get it, even if it's small, actively acknowledge it. Celebrate that mini win.
Give yourself that mental high five.
Exactly. Remind yourself of past successes. That positive self-talk really can build up that I got this muscle over time.
Okay. And third,
Third, practice self-monitoring. Be your own coach, demanding but fair. Regularly check in. Do I really get this? Don't just read passively. Maybe try explaining the concept out loud, even just to the wall or your pet.
or the classic rubber duck debugging method.
Absolutely. Set small, achievable goals for a session. I'll master this one definition today and track your progress. Knowing where you stand keeps you focused and gives you that little dopamine hit of accomplishment.
Be your own GPS and coach. Love it.
And this study clearly has big implications for instructors and course designers, too, the people creating these online learning spaces. First, it's vital they design courses that deliberately spark interest to foster that initial motivation. Maybe using engaging stories, real-world examples, interactive bits that really hook learners early on.
Make it relevant. Make it interesting.
Exactly. Second, they need to provide consistent, constructive feedback and positive guidance to build up students' self-efficacy. That belief can be fragile online, right? It needs nurturing. Think maybe low-stakes quizzes that build confidence, or just encouraging messages pointing out progress.
Yeah, positive reinforcement goes a long way.
Definitely. And finally, they should encourage activities that specifically develop those self-monitoring skills. Maybe embedding self-check quizzes, prompts for reflection like, what was clearest, muddiest for you? Maybe even peer review activities, things that help learners take more ownership, especially when they don't have that constant, immediate instructor or peer feedback loop.
Helping students become their own coaches.
Precisely. In conclusion, really, as we look at a future where remote learning is likely going to be even more common, these superpowers, motivation, self-efficacy, self-monitoring, they aren't just nice-to-haves. They feel like they're becoming absolutely crucial for success. They're key factors in keeping people going, preventing dropouts in online courses, and just making sure everyone can actually thrive and engage deeply in these flexible learning environments.
So when you really boil it down, what does this all mean? It means you have way more control over your online learning success than you might think. It's not just about the fancy platform or how brilliant the instructor is, though those help. It's also hugely about how you consciously tap into your own inner drive, your self-belief, and your ability to steer your own learning ship, navigate your own GPS through whatever digital sea you're sailing.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Given that sometimes, self-reported survey data doesn't always perfectly capture what people actually do, how might you, personally, practically experiment with consciously trying to boost your motivation, your self-efficacy, or your self-monitoring this week? And maybe more interestingly, what specific, tangible behaviors might you notice in yourself, perhaps asking one extra question, or spending 5 minutes re-explaining a concept to yourself that would signal to you that these superpowers are actually kicking in and making a difference?
That's a great challenge. We really encourage you to explore these ideas more and see how you can actively apply them to your own learning journeys.